This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to our daily roundup. We have a heavy slate of legal updates today, covering everything from shocking murder trials to tragic accidents. Let's get right into the headlines you need to know.
A Florida mother avoids prison after hiring a fake hitman.
A Utah jury deliberates a nurse's alleged insulin murder plot.
An anesthesiologist faces trial for a brutal Hawaii hiking attack.
A California man is convicted of murdering his teenage ex-girlfriend.
A professional cornhole player is charged with roadside murder.
Chilling audio reveals a fatal plane crash at LaGuardia Airport.
A Texas man allegedly killed his grandmother over allowance money.
A Washington man is charged with his girlfriend's horrific murder.
Prosecutors explain the lenient sentence for a Florida mother.
A gunman is arrested for killing a student in Chicago.
Starting in Florida, Jasmine Paez, a 20-year-old Florida woman, has pleaded guilty to solicitation of first-degree murder after attempting to hire a hitman to kill her 3-year-old son. The plot was foiled because she unknowingly used a satirical website called Rent a Hitman. The website owner, Robert Innes, was so alarmed by the specific details Paez provided that he contacted the Miami police. Despite the gravity of the charges, Paez will not spend any time in prison. Instead, her plea agreement places her on strict community control for 2 years, followed by 12 years of reporting probation.
The details behind her motivation are truly tragic and complex. Prosecutors revealed that Paez was a teen mother, and the child may have been the result of an incestuous relationship. She reportedly entered a new relationship with another teen and hid the child's existence. When the truth came out and the boyfriend broke up with her, she became devastated. Prosecutors suggested this was the catalyst for the murder plot, as she believed getting rid of the child was the only way to win him back. Her defense noted she has since graduated high school and is nearly finished with college.
Now to Utah. In Provo, Utah, a jury is currently deliberating the fate of Megan Sundwall, a 48-year-old nurse accused of murdering her friend Casey Terry with a lethal dose of insulin. Prosecutors argue that Sundwall was motivated by a purported $1.5 million life insurance policy, believing she was the sole beneficiary. However, the trial has revealed a web of lies spun by the victim herself. Terry had convinced her family and Sundwall that she was dying of cancer and under hospice care, but an autopsy later confirmed she had no significant health issues. Furthermore, the $1 million insurance policy never actually existed.
The defense is painting a very different picture, suggesting that Terry's death was actually a suicide. They argue that Terry had been stealing money from her family and felt an investigation closing in, leading her to end her own life. Sundwall's attorney emphasized that the medical examiner ruled the cause of death as undetermined, meaning there is no definitive proof of foul play. Prosecutors, however, point to years of text messages where Sundwall allegedly pressured Terry to take her own life. They describe it as a long-running game of chicken that finally ended in a calculated, greedy act of murder.
Moving to Hawaii. Anesthesiologist Gerhard Koenig is standing trial in Honolulu for the attempted murder of his wife Ariel during a hiking trip at the Pali Lookout. According to testimony, Gerhard allegedly tried to lure his wife to the edge of a steep mountain for a selfie. When she refused and tried to walk away, he reportedly pushed her into the bushes and began a brutal assault. Ariel told investigators that he hit her head with a rock approximately 10 times and smashed her face into the ground. Most disturbingly, she claimed to see him pull 2 syringes from his bag to use on her during the struggle.
The attack was interrupted by 2 witnesses who heard Ariel's screams for help. They discovered Gerhard on top of his wife, actively hitting her. Since the incident, Ariel has filed for divorce and obtained a restraining order, alleging a history of sexual abuse and accusations of infidelity. Gerhard, who worked at Maui Health at the time of his arrest, has been suspended from his medical duties. This case has shocked the local community, as a medical professional is accused of using both physical violence and potentially his professional tools to carry out a premeditated attack on his own spouse in paradise.
Next, in California, a Madera County jury has found Vicente Jasso guilty of the 2023 murder of his 19-year-old ex-girlfriend, Melanie Camacho. Melanie disappeared after leaving her shift at an AutoZone, and her body was discovered 3 days later in a local orchard. Jasso was convicted of murder with special circumstances of kidnapping and robbery, which means he now faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. The investigation revealed that Melanie had planned to meet Jasso shortly after work to exchange items following their recent breakup. Tragically, her car was found engulfed in flames just hours after her mother reported her missing to the police.
The case against Jasso was bolstered by surveillance footage and the testimony of a friend, Jose Lopez Hernandez. Lopez Hernandez was seen driving a distinctive Mustang near the location where Melanie's car was burned. He eventually led detectives to the orchard where Melanie's body was hidden. While Lopez Hernandez pleaded guilty to being an accessory and has already served his 3-year sentence, Jasso faced the full weight of the murder charges. Prosecutors highlighted Jasso's history of domestic abuse dating back several years. This conviction brings some closure to a community haunted by the disappearance of a young woman just trying to move on.
Shifting to Maryland. Dayton James Weber, a 27-year-old professional cornhole player known for competing as a quadruple amputee, is now facing first-degree murder charges. Authorities in Maryland allege that Weber shot and killed his friend, Bradrick Michael Wells, during an argument while they were driving. 2 other passengers in the car reportedly witnessed the shooting. According to the sheriff's office, Weber pulled over and asked the witnesses to help him dump the body. When they refused and fled the scene to alert the police, Weber allegedly drove to a different location in Charlotte Hall and left Wells' body in a residence yard before fleeing to Virginia.
Weber was eventually located at a hospital in Charlottesville, Virginia, where he was being treated for an unrelated medical issue. He is currently awaiting extradition back to Maryland. This story is particularly jarring because Weber had previously gained national attention for his inspirational journey, overcoming a 3% survival rate as an infant to become a professional athlete. He had even written essays about his resilience and his ability to surprise people. Now, that public image is completely overshadowed by these violent allegations. The community is struggling to reconcile the inspirational figure they knew with the man accused of such a cold-blooded crime.
Now to New York. Newly released air traffic control audio has provided a terrifying look into the moments leading up to a fatal crash at LaGuardia Airport. On March 22nd, an Air Canada plane arriving from Montreal collided with a rescue and firefighting truck on the runway. The audio captures a controller frantically shouting for the plane to stop, followed by the devastating admission, "I messed up." The collision resulted in the deaths of both pilots on the aircraft. While 41 passengers and crew members were transported to the hospital, most had been released, though some sustained serious injuries. The airport was temporarily closed as federal investigators began their probe.
The firefighting truck had been cleared to enter the runway in response to a separate incident involving a different flight. This tragic overlap of events is now the central focus of the investigation. Port Authority officials are working to determine exactly who was in the control tower and how the miscommunication occurred. Air Canada and its regional partner, Jazz Aviation, expressed deep sadness over the loss of their employees. Among the passengers was an unaccompanied minor, highlighting the potential for even greater tragedy. This incident raises serious questions about runway safety protocols and the immense pressure placed on air traffic controllers during busy shifts.
Next, in Texas. In Arlington, Texas, 21-year-old Rontrell Jackson has been charged with the murder of his 68-year-old grandmother. Police were called to an apartment complex after a family member discovered the woman's body on a patio, covered with a blanket. Investigators quickly learned that Jackson and his grandmother had been involved in a heated argument earlier that day regarding his allowance money. According to the police report, Jackson admitted to shooting her inside the apartment before dragging her body outside. A firearm believed to be the murder weapon was recovered at the scene. Jackson is currently being held in the Tarrant County Jail on a $750,000 bond.
The brutality of the crime has left the local community in shock. To kill a family member over something as trivial as allowance money is difficult to comprehend. The victim's identity has not yet been officially released as authorities work to notify all next of kin. Neighbors at the Carriage House Circle apartments described a chaotic scene as emergency personnel arrived. The investigation is still very much active as detectives look into Jackson's background and any previous incidents of domestic disturbance. This case serves as a grim reminder of how quickly domestic disputes can escalate into senseless violence when a firearm is present in the home.
Moving to Washington, Juan Manuel Delgado Jr. is facing second-degree murder charges in Washington for the death of his girlfriend, Krista Hunt. Krista was reported missing in early February after her mother could not reach her. Delgado initially claimed that they had an argument and he let her out of his truck on the side of a highway. However, the investigation took a dark turn when Krista's body was found in a river. Her mother revealed a history of horrific abuse, including an incident where Delgado allegedly set a timer and told Krista he would hit her every 15 minutes. Medical records from a previous hospital visit confirmed she had suffered broken ribs and a fractured leg.
The details of the abuse Krista endured are stomach-turning. She had previously told doctors about being strangled, kicked, and even burned with a lighter. Despite the severity of her injuries, she was often too afraid to report the abuse to the police. Days after Krista went missing, Delgado allegedly shot himself in the head in an apparent suicide attempt, but he survived and was subsequently arrested. Prosecutors are now using the extensive medical history and the mother's testimony to build a case of long-term domestic torture that culminated in murder. It is a heartbreaking example of the systemic failures that often leave domestic violence victims unprotected.
Back to Florida. Returning to the case of Jasmine Paez, the Florida woman who tried to hire a hitman for her son, more details have emerged regarding her controversial plea deal. During the sentencing hearing, the judge appeared to question why Paez was avoiding jail time for such a serious felony. Assistant State Attorney Ayanna Duncan defended the decision by pointing to Paez's significant personal progress while on pretrial release. Since her arrest in 2023, Paez has not only graduated from high school, but is also on the verge of earning her associate degree in science. The state argued that these achievements suggested a potential for rehabilitation that warranted a middle ground sentence.
While the defense had pushed for even lighter youthful offender sanctions, the state insisted on 14 years of combined community control and probation. This ensures that Paez remains under strict supervision while receiving necessary mental health assessments and behavioral therapy. The court heard how her desperation to please a boyfriend led to the murder plot, but also how her family remains involved in the child's life. The child's grandparents, who are also Paez's biological parents, continue to provide a support system. This case highlights the difficult balance the justice system must strike between punishing a heinous intent and acknowledging the complex mental health and social factors involved.
Finally, in Chicago. In Chicago, 25-year-old Jose Medina has been arrested for the murder of Sheridan Gorman, an 18-year-old freshman at Loyola University. Gorman was walking with friends near her dorm late at night, hoping to catch a glimpse of the northern lights, when a masked gunman approached and opened fire. Medina allegedly shot Gorman before attempting to flee the scene. He now faces multiple charges, including first-degree murder and aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. The university community is in mourning, and the school president released a statement expressing profound sadness over the tragic loss of a student who was simply living her life on campus.
Gorman's family released a poignant statement emphasizing that she was doing nothing reckless and was exactly where she should have been. They described her as extraordinary and vowed that she would not be remembered as just another headline. Medina, who authorities noted is from Venezuela, is also charged with attempted murder and aggravated assault for discharging his firearm during the incident. His first court appearance is scheduled for March 23rd. This senseless act of violence has reignited concerns about campus safety and the unpredictable nature of urban crime, leaving a family and a university searching for answers in the wake of an unimaginable loss.
That concludes our daily legal and crime roundup. Thank you for joining us for these important updates.
For more daily briefings on the stories that matter most, be sure to follow this show. We will see you back here tomorrow.